Really? Angela Balzac and Agent Dingo? Those are the two main characters of this story? Angela Balzac? Hi, welcome to That to Wrap, the channel where I review TV shows, movies, and movie trailers. Today's movie that we will be reviewing is the animated series or animated movie Expelled from Paradise. If you're not familiar with this movie that came out in 2014, please consider this your spoiler warning. So this movie was very boring. The story was very basic. It's just if you remember watching the Captain Marvel movie, it's literally that. You have this female agent that's working with an AI, and they're doing, reconnaissance. They feel like they're doing good, so she buys into that and is fully on board for, with the government or whatever agency is in that world. And then she travels to another world where she finds out the atrocities that her government that she believes in is doing. So then she has to change her beliefs and what she's been taught. Then she obviously rebels against that government and joins forces with the ones that she was taught that were evil and her enemies, joining forces with them and ultimately destroying or being victorious against the oppressing government that we find out. Now, Captain Marvel was a little bit different, but it's just the same story. At least in that one, well, not even that. I think it was actually the same, because they don't destroy that agency or that government, and it's just one of those tropes. You've seen it with Ghost in the Shell. You've seen it. I mean, it's just a familiar plot that many movies, not just animated or Marvel, just several stories use that. It is a good skeleton, if you will, to build your story on. But more times than not, it always fails. It feels generic, and especially if you don't add any nuances to it, it just becomes redundant and boring, which this movie does. This movie revolves around over-sexualizing Miss Balzac. Yeah, I still can't get over that name. When I first heard it, I'm like, what? Really? So they over-sexualize her from every shot from the beginning. And I'm not some old prune. I grew up with the really, really extreme hentai and anime when I was back in the 90s, when it was like a subculture, I guess. And I'm not opposed to any stylized art and way you want to portray it. So it was just some of the camera shots. There was a lot of ass shots, a lot of titty shots, and I didn't get turned off to it until the story literally tells you. So Miss Balzac goes from an adult body into a 16-year-old's body. You can't tell the difference, like most, that's the trope or the joke in animes. Sometimes the mom looks younger than the daughter, or they look the same age, which I get. But they literally tell you she's going into a 16-year-old's body, and that's what the body is. But then they still over-sexualize it. Now, I don't know if this was done, all the filming or animation in Japan, and then it was just dubbed for American audiences, which seems to be the case. And you can't do nothing about the animation. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't know what the legal age thing in Japan is. But once that happened, again, I don't care about the animation style, but the way they then draw it and shoot it after that fact, it's just over-sexualized. And again, I don't have a problem with it being over-sexualized as long as it's not directed towards a minor, what we would be considered a minor, which kind of led me to think, like, how is Netflix letting this on on their site. But hey, it's a free country. You could choose to, I guess, watch what you can. But if this was any, you know what? I'll take that back. There was that show Cuties, again, also on Netflix, that drew a bunch of criticism, and rightfully so. So who knows? Maybe, I don't want to take away or say anything against freedom of speech, because I fully believe in freedom of speech. But anyways, to get back on track, it just seemed a little bit too over sexualized after we found out that she was 16. The animation was good and bad. I did like some of the back shots. It seems like they put a lot of effort into their animation, but then on another animation, especially when Miss Balzac, her side profile, her forehead would fluctuate from being extremely big to small. The mouth moving doesn't really, I mean, that's the way it is with these types of animation, just because it is going to be dubbed into different languages for different audiences. So it makes it easier, as opposed to having too much detail in the mouth movement, because then when you translate that into other languages, it could be off. So why not just make it that way for all three of them, which I get. But the animation was good and bad. Like I said, it had its moments. It was more towards the good than the bad, but still, you could definitely tell from it. It's just basically a cookie cutter animation, or anime, if you will. There was nothing really that stood out from it. And what did stand out from it was, again, the over sexualizing of the character of Ms. Balzac, when everyone else in that universe was, all the guys were cover up. And again, I'm not here to be like, taking either side of what. Again, if I don't have a problem with it, it just seemed in this one, some of the shots, you could tell the target audience that they were going for. Which again, I'm not here to be like this old prune and say, oh, this is horrible, you shouldn't. I get it, but it was a little bit distasteful and overtly done. Again, I'm not opposed whether it's in the story, it fits the story. I get it. This is the stylized, stylized, I guess, just the way the animation style is for women in anime. And I love anime. This has nothing to do with that. But for this particular movie, for the fact that it was a 16-year-old's body, even though we're aware that it was an older woman in this 16-year-old's body, it was still overly sexualized. The shots, like, again, not the outfit, whatever, it is what it is, but like some of the close-ups of her butt, they spent too much drawing on her butt, and every one of those shots was, again, just the over sexualization of that character. Even though she's a strong willed, she's a strong character, she could definitely defend herself. It's not like a damsel in distress. She's a kick-ass character as far as, what she stands for. She has moral integrity. Again, she could defend herself. She's not like, oh, I need to be rescued, even though she does get rescued a couple of times, but it's, by the male counterpart's own direction. It wasn't like she asked for it. She's willing to die in her stubbornness. But anyways, besides my over rant of the over sexualization of the character, it's just a boring story. I mean, if you like anime, you'll enjoy watching it. It's a little too long. You could have cut out like 30 minutes of the BS on it and made it like an hour and 20 minutes, and it would have flowed a lot better. It's almost 2 hours, and for 2 hours for an anime of this quality, it's too long. So anyways, for me, it's a D rating. If you like anime, go ahead and watch it. If you're trying to get into anime, I would suggest you do not watch this movie. It's just boring. There's no nuances. You could find other animated movies that have way more to offer than this. But anyways, that's just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.